need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
So you knew you wanted to try something new. You knew that maybe education wasn't a forever fit, but what made you choose interior design?
So I've always been interested in interior design. I knew, I liked designing my own home. I took a course in high school that I really, really loved, and then I just ended up not choosing that path when I went to college. So it was always kind of on my short list of at least hobbies. So when I was looking for a new career, that I explored that a little bit. And before I found the academy, I thought it really wasn't possible. It seemed like I could maybe get a job at, a furniture store or something like that, but that was about as far as I could go. When I found the academy, it just seemed like maybe a door was opening that I didn't think, was really possible. So when I found out that it could potentially be a career choice, that's when I feel like I realized that was my number one choice.
So you kind of ruled it out because you didn't want to go back to school or didn't want to be in an in-depth program.
Exactly.
And we're considering other things. What other things were you considering, just out of curiosity?
So it's kind of funny. A lot of them kind of involved interior design, I think. I was looking at, retail stores or furniture stores where I could, potentially design the front of shop windows or things like that. And then other careers were just education based. And I wasn't exactly too passionate about that. But again, I thought that's, what I went to school for. That was my expertise. So that's what I was looking into.
Got it. And so you decided to take the academy, decided to dive in. And how was that process for you? How long did it take you to complete it? How did it feel? Was it a steep climb?
So I think it's tracked out. You could take 10 weeks to complete it. Like I said, I was working as a teacher at the time, so I took a little longer to complete it. There were times where I had to stop myself because I found it extremely interesting. It was my passion. So I would want to, watch 6 videos in a row, but I couldn't do that for, many different reasons. So it took me, I would say, maybe about 4 months or maybe 6 months. And the process, it didn't seem, because I'm very interested in it, it didn't seem too daunting. It was what I looked forward to every day. While I was still teaching. I had something else I wanted to say, but I forget.
Well, that's okay. Because some people are wondering, like, what is it going to be like to actually take a course? Is it going to be consuming like when I was in university? Am I going to feel confident by the time I complete the course that I can, have professional tools and talk in a professional manner without going to a robust university course? So
Right.
these are all things that people doubt that they'll be able to do without a big degree. But, in my experience, people who've even gone to school can't do those things with a degree. So, I created this program to give people those tools, but I want to make sure it's actually, what it's built for.
Right. And I think definitely on the other side of it now, it is totally possible. I feel very confident as a designer now, having, pretty much my only formal training was the academy. And I think it's similar to any career. Even with teaching, I went to school, you learn how to teach, and then it's a whole different ballgame getting up in front of students. So at the end of the day, I think any career, until you're, in front of a client or in front of a customer or anything, a room full of children, you're not going to exactly know how it goes. But if you have the right tools, it's kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid and you learn as you go. But I definitely think the academy took me as far as I needed to go in terms of the tools and the language I needed to use with clients, and, the technicalities that I needed to know, or the technical specifications. to feel confident once I was actually designing for real live clients.
Now let's talk about that because you mentioned that you took the academy almost exactly 2 years ago right now. And when did you start taking real life clients? What did that look like? Let's hear about your design career now and sort of how that came to be.
Mhm. So started the academy in April 2021, and then I was offered a job at your firm in April of 2022. So about a year later, I took a client before that, kind of informally, using the systems that I had learned in the academy, and I was actually pretty surprised how confident I felt doing that. So that kind of made me confident enough to apply to a design firm. And sorry, I think yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
And just talking about sort of so after you took that sort of initial client, you felt confident enough not only to take them, but then to apply when you saw that we were looking and that you were in our area. But what have you been doing since then? Because you've been working for us exactly a year.
Mhm.
April seems to be a big month for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've been working for us exactly a year. So what does life look like now that you are a designer? Now that you're regularly taking clients? Um, Tell us more about your day to day.
Yeah. So, depending on the day, if I have a client, that I need to travel to take an initial meeting with them, I will travel usually into New York City. I would say most of our clients are there. So, depending on the package that they get, you spend a few hours with them, measuring their space, getting to know their style. And then I come home and I work remotely a lot of the time. So it feels like a different world that I'm living from a few years ago. I have a lot of flexibility. I make my own schedule you know, um, to a certain extent, and I work during the hours that I feel most productive. I think that's been a huge shift for me with this flexibility. I was not a morning person as a teacher, so that was pretty, rough. It could be pretty rough with the schedule. So now I feel so much better working every day, not only because of what I'm doing, but I have the flexibility to work, at night when I feel most productive. And I think that's been a huge shift, just the overall flexibility and freedom I have to do what I want to do and when I want to do it.
Well, and I'll put a quick asterisk here because not everybody that joins the academy is going to work for my firm, Uploft Interior Design. In fact, it's super rare.
Right.
You applied because you saw that we were hiring for designers in this area. You happen to live in this area. And I'd seen you go through the academy. So I knew that you were diligent. I knew that you were eager. We'd had coaching calls together. So I was able to sort of glimpse the work that you'd been doing. And I already knew that you knew the tools I teach all my designers, whether they've been to school or not, because you've taken this program, which is exactly what we use internally.
Mm-hmm.
So you went through the same sort of application process that anyone would in terms of getting interviewed and getting trained and all of that. But I just want to put that asterisk in because it's not an outcome that everyone should expect. If you live in the New York City area and we happen to be hiring and you've taken the academy, it certainly gives you a leg up to apply because I know you already speak my language and use the tools that we use. And so that's why it was just a perfect fit for perfect timing. You'd already completed the program, et cetera. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, the thing that I want to get across to people is that you really can have the flexibility and sort of live the life of your dreams, whether you're working for my firm or working for yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
choose when you take clients. My daughter has some kind of planting Earth Day thing coming up, and I will be there. I will, make the time, carve it out. I went on Monday to a school field trip and we went on a hike and all these things and you can make it happen. I know Shannon's been to like 6 weddings this year or something. And
Counting,
she's
yeah.
been yeah, yeah. And she's been able to go to all of them because you just block it off on your calendar. So whether you're working for somebody else, which question mark, can be flexible or not, but certainly if you're working for yourself or working for a firm like mine, you can really make it your own. I am also not a morning person, and until you mentioned that, I never thought that there would be teachers who weren't morning people. I thought you just kind of went to school to learn how to do that part too. Because you guys wake up like what, 4, 5 to commute?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I thought about doing that Teach for America. Do you remember that? Like you didn't
Yes.
have to go to school. You could actually like teach in the inner city for a couple years and then go to school at night and kind of earn a degree. And I was tempted by that because I wanted to make a big difference in people's lives in New York City. And then I saw the hours
Yes.
and I was like, I
It's a
am
very
not
tough
getting up
program.
at 4 a.m. to go to the Bronx to
Yes.
teach starting at 7 a.m. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So I would say that the hours were a huge deterrent for me.
Definitely.
Um, and so, based on the academy, what was the most valuable thing you think you took away from that? Or, what's been the nugget that stuck with you?
So, that's tough to pick out. I think the most valuable thing I took away from it was kind of the toolbox of um, guidelines. I guess is the good word for it, that make designing kind of less of a mystery to me or to anyone. I Before I was in the academy, I knew I liked design, and I thought I was good at it, but I didn't really know exactly how to make everything look the way I wanted to make it look. And the academy really took the mystery out of that by providing a very specific set of guidelines. And there's wiggle, it's not, hard and fast rules all the time. I think standard sizing is, but there is wiggle room for creativity, of course, since, it's a creative field. But the guidelines were super helpful for me in terms of my confidence as a designer, that I'm not just, saying, oh, I have an eye for this. I think this dining table will fit, or literally fit and stylistically fit in your space. So in front of clients, that was really valuable, because if they wanted something and I knew it wasn't possible, or I knew it wouldn't look good for these very specific reasons, I had the language and the knowledge to tell them that, and vice versa. A lot of clients come to us; they do enjoy design. They do want to be a part of that process, but they say, I'm never quite sure how to, you know, make it look like a finished product, or make it look like a complete space. And I think um, we, you know, we have the tools to kind of take it to the next step, or take it to the next level, and really design a room that is feels complete, and both stylistically and proportionally, and the academy really helped take the mystery out of that.
Well, definitely. And I think when working with clients, one of the most challenging things is when they do have an eye for design and maybe they already have a fabulous space. I can think of a number of times when I've walked into a client's space and I'm like, you don't need my help. This looks pretty great. But they've already paid. And obviously, it's not right for them, right? There are things they're missing, or they want to pull it together, or they want those finishing touches. So even myself, I go back to those rules like, in the book, we have this special chapter that's all about sort of what is missing in a room and the elements you should be looking for, whether it's a
Mhm.
bit of black or something shiny or some kind of texture. So we create that checklist, which is, again, just one of those tools. Now, as a teacher, I consider myself a teacher since I teach the academy. I have a question for you, and you can be
Mhm.
fully honest. I'm not going
Mhm.
to, yeah. Uh, One of the things that I think is unique about the academy that's different from other programs is that I really want you guys to use the videos, the printouts, the different things that are contained in the academy as an ongoing research library. Like you don't have to memorize it in 6 months because you won't have access anymore.
Right.
So, would you say either now or in your kind of journey the past year as a designer that you reference the tools time and again, or do you think you were able to sort of memorize them and just move forward?
Um, I truly use them every day. They're pulled up on my computer right now. I no exaggeration, reference a lot of the handouts every single day. Less so some of the standard sizing where now, having taken several clients and just understand, memorizing them through that. I don't reference some of those things that I've memorized, but um, different things like paint color go-tos and paint finishes for different rooms and things like that. I still truly reference every day, just and that's a confidence boost too. Like I think I know what paint finish should go in this room, or different things, but I can check it against the handout and know that I'm making the right choice. um, and it's quick too, different little things that maybe I feel like I would have to go on a design forum and ask or something like that. They're kind of just right at my fingertips. So um, I just keep them open on my desktop, and it makes designing, that much easier. So they're very helpful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to say that. You could have
No,
told
it's
me you
true.
memorized everything. But I did want this program to be different in the fact that it's not a temporary fix. This should be that sort of place you can go back to time and time again. And for me, I use my textbook, the Affordable Interior Design book. I still go back to that when I forget my favorite gray paint. Like every now and again, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what was that pink paint that I really liked? So I still go back there too. Um, I just think that that's an important piece of any program, is that you would be able to leave with something or to re-reference, like how to measure a window. There's a lot of
Mhm.
technical things that you might not be able to master in one pass or one video, but the ability to keep that and have lifetime access, I think, is one of the real benefits. Something that's different that I personally use, even myself. Uh, so, a lot of our listeners are hearing your episode, and I think you heard about the Academy from the podcast, as I recall.
Mhm.
So, they might be afraid to leave their day job or take the plunge or take a completely different career path because, they've either invested a lot in their previous education or they just don't see a path forward with something like this. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say it is very scary, but it is possible. And especially if you are in a situation like I was, where I truly like wasn't happy in my career, I don't think, there's anything to lose in that situation. If you're doing something you love, um, it's going to make your everyday that much better. And I think, um, first of all, the academy, you can do it while you're still at your daytime job, which is what I did. So I think that makes it a little less scary. You don't have to quit your job and then take the academy and, then start a new career right away. So that helped me transition into a new career. I was still, making money in my old career and taking the academy. And then by the end, I felt so confident that I was, entirely ready to start my own business before, I noticed that you were hiring. Um, so I really just think that um, it is possible to do something in a or start a new career in a non-traditional way. I think, especially people maybe from my generation, were taught that there's one pathway to take start a career, and that's to go to college for that one thing, and then do that career for the rest of your life. And while that's all well and good, and it works for a lot of people, it's not the only way, and there are options out there for you to change what you want to do. And I truly think, it's for me, it's changed my entire life, so I think it's worth it.
And what are the positive changes that you've seen?
So for me, it was like at a very base level. I'm happy doing what I do day to day, and that wasn't the case for me in my old career. The flexibility, I know I talked a little bit about that before, but the flexibility has also added to my happiness. I feel just a lot more freedom in my everyday to get things done that I need to get done, while also doing what I love in the times that I have. Um, Other positive changes, I think it's just given me a lot of confidence. This is not something that I ever thought would be possible. I think I kind of thought I sealed my fate with what I went to school with, but it made me realize that in any career you're trained for, there are transferable skills, in anything that you do. I used to think that teaching was such a specific skill set, but as a teacher, I was also, um, you know, I learned how to be a communicator, a consultant, so many different things that I think that people maybe you might think that you have this one very specific skill set with any career, but the transferable skills, you have more than you think. So it's really given me the confidence to think I could do a lot of different things, and I do have a lot of skills, beyond ones that are specifically for teachers or specifically for designers. So in that's been, I think, a big positive change in my life, just the overall confidence in what I know that I can do.
Well, and I think that's the great thing about the interior design field, because you use a lot of different skills in terms of people skills, in terms of math, in terms of art. So you really need to be sort of a well-rounded person to be an
Mhm.
interior designer, in my opinion. A lot of you guys know from listening to the podcast that I was in the food service industry. I was a waitress and then a bartender, and people are thinking like, what applicable skills are those, right? But I can sum someone up in an instant. I can read their emotional availability. People would come to the bar and I could tell if they'd had a really bad day or if they wanted to talk or if they just wanted a beer and a shot and for me to leave them alone. And that was a really lucrative skill because then they would tip me more because I was sort of giving them the emotional space or the emotional support that they needed. And that was immediately transferable to my design clients. Like I'm meeting somebody for the first time. They're typically in emotional distress. Nobody calls me because they're having a good day. They call me because there's problems. They're ashamed of their space. They have so much clutter and they just don't see a way out. And I can meet them where they are emotionally. So that's my sort of bartending parlay. But what are some immediate skills that you saw as an educator? Because I definitely saw them when you were in training and now taking clients. So I'm just curious to see what you feel has been directly applicable.
I think several things, but communicating directly, I think, has been helpful. I know how to interact with several different types of people. I know how to interact with people who are upset. We've had parents that have been upset. I've know I'm not afraid to really say things directly, and I think that applies to design more than I thought it would, because people have obviously very grand ideas for a space, and some are possible and some are not. So I think it's helpful, to be able to very speak very directly and frankly and back it up with evidence, like this is why we can't do that. We can't have a 9 foot dining table in this studio apartment or something. So that's been helpful. I think being very flexible, as a teacher, it's almost comical how flexible you have to be. You can have a whole lesson planned and then there's a fire drill that you didn't know about, and the smartboard doesn't work and you have to change your whole entire day. So I think the flexibility has helped me, as well. I don't always fully, before I get to a client, understand what they want or what style they want. So I really have to kind of think on my feet.
Sure.
So that's been super helpful. There are probably more, but yeah, those are the top two that come to mind, I guess.
One of the main things that I saw right away that not everybody feels comfortable with is just that you felt really comfortable presenting in front of them.
Hmm.
Because you have to be the expert. And when you're a new designer, you may not feel like the expert. Or, you might have to later reference worksheets at night after you leave the
Right.
client and may not have that answer on the spot. But the fact that you always had that sort of professional presentation is something that I feel I got not through educating, but through an acting background.
Hmm.
But I just think that it's so helpful in inspiring confidence. And so that's another skill that I saw right away, just to let
Yeah.
you know, one that you didn't mention. There we
And
go.
I think, thank you. I appreciate that. I think clients appreciate that too. There have been times where I've wavered or, have said, oh, we could do this or we could do this. Like, what do you think? And a lot of clients will back off and say, I hired you to be the expert. I need you to, make a decision. So that has been helpful. I think people really they might call. I think a lot of clients call because of indecision. So being confident in your decision as you're presenting, I think is very reassuring for clients. So that has been helpful for sure.
Well, and not to say one thing I want to say, because a lot of new designers think that they have to have all the answers.
Right.
And that's absolutely not the case. Sometimes, very rarely, after thousands of spaces and 17 years, but sometimes even I get stumped in a space or with a client and I say, you know what, I'm going to have to explore some possibilities and get back to you.
Definitely.
Or I'm going to have to review this and think a little bit harder about what might be the right solution. But the thing is, if you can even say that with confidence, knowing that you have the worksheets or the videos at home, knowing that if you take enough pictures and take enough measurements on site, you'll be able to find the answer, whether it's in the Facebook community at the academy or whether it's through the support of people that you're working with. Um, as long as you can convey that in a professional way, it can still inspire confidence. Nobody expects you to have all the answers. And
Mhm.
sometimes when we're feeling unconfident or when we're in a new role, we feel like we have to have all the answers in order to appear professional, but that's absolutely not the case.
Right.
In fact, sometimes I think jumping to an answer too quickly can ultimately bite you in the butt
Right.
as you go back later and say, you know what, I found a better solution. I wish I would have thought that through a little bit. So don't be daunted out there, guys, if you worry that it would take you forever to kind of have that confidence. As long as you say, you know what, I'm not sure. As long as you say that with confidence,
Right.
you're going to be just fine.
Definitely. I think there definitely have been those situations. Yeah, confidence and just being candid, being honest. I think all kind of reassure people and um, exactly. That has come up a lot, and it's interesting because it's as teachers were also told to do that, like with children as well, because it's better, to be honest with a child and say, actually, I don't know the answer to that math problem, like let me solve it right now. But and that can be even a little bit harder saying it to a child versus an adult, but yeah, definitely a good skill set to have. And just overall, honesty, I think helps the client build trust with you as well.
Definitely. Well, Shannon, I thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I feel like this is a full circle moment. You heard about the Academy on the podcast maybe about 2 years ago and totally transformed your life in just 1 year because I hired you 1 year ago. And I think that's really inspiring and cool personally.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
it's my
And thank you
pleasure.
for having me. It's been fun.
Well, of course. So tell people where they can find you, where they can learn more about you. Um,
So I am on uploft.com. So affordable interior design and modern interior design are both, companies under the Uploft umbrella. So I have profiles on both of those company sites, so you can see some of my work on there, and just learn a little bit more about me.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for being on the show, and I'm excited to continue to work with you in the future. You're doing great. I have been very impressed, and you have a great educational foundation. I don't know where you got your degree, your certification, but I'm super impressed. Oh, wait, you got it at the academy. You were totally ready to take clients, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
So, of course. Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone, and we'll be talking to you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
A big thank you to Aton and the Embassy, who wrote our theme song. A shout out to Catherine Heller, who owns the podcast shop and is our editor extraordinaire. We also want to thank Ginny Sunasan and her team at the Savvy Podcast Agency for their help with our social, our YouTube channel, and so much more. We also want to thank Uploft, which is our parent company who supports this podcast. And lastly, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support.